Good morning to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our Tropical Weather Outlook video for today, Saturday, July 19th, 2025. On today's Tropical Weather Outlook, we are officially now talking about an area of interest that was marked in the MDR by the National Hurricane Center last night. As I said, they would do it eventually, as it now looks like we might potentially have a chance for a small wave embedded within the ITCZ out in the Eastern Atlantic. It might break off and try to develop and become a small but quick and nonetheless a tropical system in the MDR, and that would be the first for this year. And the models certainly have it today. I'll go over what the models are showing and also what current conditions are looking like for this system, including satellite imagery and all of that. So make sure to stay tuned. And sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's get started by taking a look at the National Hurricane Center homepage with the latest 8 a.m. I don't want that. I want the National Hurricane Center homepage, the latest 8 a.m. tropical weather outlook, which came out about an hour and a half ago, or roughly 2 hours ago. But as of 8 a.m. Eastern Time in the central tropical Atlantic, a tropical wave interacting with a broad area of low pressure is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms about 900 miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions are marginally conducive for gradual development of this system during the next few days as it moves westward to west-northwestward or at around 10 miles per hour. And that's actually significant because this will not be zooming super fast across the MDR, which tends to be a prohibiting factor from preventing tropical waves from being able to form out here in the MDR, especially early on in the season. The trade winds are just so strong that waves are often not really able to consolidate because they're moving too fast. But this is going to be moving at 10 miles per hour, so this is going to be moving at a nice pace enough for it to be able to develop. But by the middle of next week, environmental conditions are going to be unfavorable, probably because of, especially as per usual this time of year, lots of dry Saharan air to the north, and that will be a major inhibiting factor, which will either prevent this from developing, or if this does develop, it'll most certainly be a weak and a very quick and definitely very small system here in the MDR. Here's a satellite image of what is going on in the Eastern MDR. And actually, really quickly, I should just mention to you, we do have an area of interest in the Eastern Pacific. And this is maybe could develop. The Eastern Pacific might actually wake up in a little bit in the coming weeks here. Finally, after being dead for a few weeks, they're finally going to wake up, and there's an area of interest there. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. Let's go to the satellite imagery of the Atlantic, and I actually decided to do a zoomed-in imagery on the MDR so you could see where our tropical wave is, and this is it right here, roughly in the central southern MDR. Let me really quickly look at the tropical weather outlook just to see where it is located. So roughly between 40 west and 30 west, and just south of 10 north. So this is pretty much it right here. And you can see it's actually quite an aggressive wave. Definitely lots of convective activity firing right now. So it has a lot of energy associated with it. It's convectively active. And that's definitely required, and that's definitely a good thing you're looking for if you are looking for this system to develop. And here are the lower level winds in the atmosphere. So these are the wind barbs in the lower levels of the atmosphere, and you can generally see kind of very weak winds actually. Well, first of all, this satellite picture might not always be accurate in terms of capturing the lower level winds, but you can see weak winds here. And then you can kind of see a little bit in how these bars kind of kink upwards. So it definitely means there is a trough of some sort located here. So there's definitely energy. There's definitely some sort of spin and some sort of energy associated with this wave. And you can even see that especially, as I love to use, on the 850 millibar vorticity map and you can see the signature for the wave that we're watching quite clearly here in the Eastern Atlantic. It kind of stands out like a sore thumb compared to the rest of the tropical Atlantic. Well, there is this piece of energy that is out here in the far Eastern Atlantic, probably a monsoon trough associated with the wave train out here in the Eastern Atlantic, but we're not looking for that to develop. We're looking for this area specifically to develop, and it definitely has vorticity associated with it. So it has that, it has energy. It's definitely a very aggressive tropical wave. The thing that we're going to have to watch for is whether or not it could actually consolidate and break off from the mass of energy that is embedded within, and that is the ITCZ. Really quickly going back to the satellite, you could actually see it through here, how it extends pretty much from off the coast of South America and then kind of, lasts through the eastern MDR here. And if you're not familiar with what the ITCZ is, it's pretty much an area of convergence from where winds from the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere collide. And that is pretty much where the ITCZ is. And it's a really good bubble of moisture, especially early on in the season for a lot of these tropical waves. And sometimes that's how we get development in the early season, is waves that break off from the moisture bubble of the ITCZ and have enough vorticity and energy that is able to consolidate, break off, and become its own small little system. And that's what we're going to have to watch over the next several days to see if that is what indeed is able to happen. And we'll certainly have to watch sea surface temperatures, though, especially through the eastern and southern and central MDR here. Definitely warm enough for development. And you can see mostly 26s, some 27s here. So for the most part, good enough for development in the Eastern Atlantic. In fact, most of the MDR is pretty much at where it should be for development. And obviously we're talking about 26 degrees. Still a little bit of a slither of the northeastern MDR right near the coast of Africa and just right around the Cabo Verde Island area. Looks like that has to warm up just a little bit, but in the coming weeks as we get towards August and September, that'll more than certainly warm up and be warm enough for tropical development in the Eastern Atlantic, especially as we get towards the peak season and we start watching the Eastern MDR a lot closer for development in the Atlantic. So let's look at the models. Let's look at what the GFS, and then I'll show you what the Euro shows, and see just generally how this wave comes together. And I'll bring this out for the next few slides. So we're now at 24, now 36 hours, and we are now into early next week. And you can see here on the 6E GFS, yes, indeed, we do have some consolidation that occurs, and then we kind of have this small little area of vorticity. And I will once again mention that anything that does develop will indeed be likely a very, very small system, and probably will not last long because, as you can see, tries to get its act together starting tomorrow. We start to see some consolidation occur, and then it closes off, and then it remains this small, kind of bundled up, closed off low until around late Tuesday and Wednesday, when it begins to fall apart and pretty much completely disintegrates as it then begins to head into the Caribbean. In terms of impacts by direct tropical cyclone to the Caribbean, you guys don't have to worry about that. Although this still will probably be an open tropical wave by the time it gets to the Caribbean. And tropical waves, regardless of whether or not they develop, still bring impacts to the island. So, and you guys are probably very much aware of that. So please keep that in mind over the next several days. But you can see here, some wave that tries to get going, consolidates, becomes a nice little low pressure here that, you can see this one closed isobar in here, and definitely some pretty potent vorticity with it, but it's a very small system, and it only lasts from about late Sunday through Monday, and then into Tuesday before it then just falls apart as it moves westward. So that's the GFS. Let's take a look at the Euro. The 0-0 Euro, and then I'm actually going to show you the European for the 60 euro, although it only goes out to 3 days, although I think that's really all we need to look at this. And you can see here the euro pretty much shows the same thing as well. Actually kind of shows a little bit more of an aggressive sort of signature with this. Definitely a very potent low here, a very small potent low. If I were to look at that, that definitely looks like an indication to me of maybe a weak and small tropical depression before it begins to fall apart as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. And the euro actually makes this try to hold on a little bit more as it heads into the islands before eventually as it heads into the Caribbean, it just obviously completely and totally falls apart. But euro definitely is pretty aggressive in showing something, trying to consolidate, So really quickly going to run it back to you. That definitely looks like something that does try to develop, at least on the European model, to me. Obviously, though, once again, it's a very small system and definitely probably not going to be any significant or potent at all. And then really quickly, I want to show you, because what I just showed you was the 0Z model. Here's the 60 run of the euro, and I have to show you using the EC fast because we have the regular euro, which is, what I just showed you, and then we have the EC fast, which is the European. It's the same exact model, but it's a lower resolution and it loads quicker, but it only runs in 24-hour intervals. Very interesting, and this is how actually the euro used to be on Tropical Tidbits before they actually added the more current high-definition euro. But even with the 6C, still shows a low-pressure consolidating and trying to become something here in the MDR, and this is as we head into Monday and into Tuesday. So early next week is when we're going to have to watch for development out of this, and then eventually as this moves westward and gets into the Caribbean, although probably won't be much of anything by then, probably by the mid to later part of next week, as the National Hurricane Center says, this will probably already be falling apart by then. But really quickly, I want to show you climatology because while yes, we typically watch the Eastern Atlantic as we head into August, July 21st to 31st, let's take a look at the points of origin in the Eastern Atlantic. And oh, well, you look at that, we have quite a few. So this definitely is probably a sign, in my opinion, of things slowly starting to become more favorable. And, for the past several weeks, we've all been talking about conditions being, very harsh and unfavorable, lots of shear, lots of dry air in the deep tropical Atlantic. And, just look at the first three storms that we've had. They were all either, very small, sloppy storms that formed and only formed in the subtropics. I mean, Andrea and Chantal. They were not deep tropical origin storms because conditions were very unfavorable in the deep tropics. But the fact that we are now starting to get development potentially in the MDR, and I did talk about this a little bit yesterday, I do think it's a sign of things potentially becoming more favorable. So, you definitely take that into consideration, even though this probably will not be a strong storm, or at least, we assume it won't, although I'm pretty sure it won't, if it even does develop at all. Probably won't be a strong storm, but the fact that it's developing in the MDR is very interesting, and that's why, I'm even bringing this up in a major way that I am, that I have a title named Something is Forming in the MDR, because it is significant. It does represent, in my opinion, that conditions are changing and things are becoming more favorable. And I just showed you with climatology, as we head into late July, we definitely see more points of origin out in the Eastern Atlantic. So it definitely is a sign that the times are changing, and we are definitely heading into August, and things are going to start getting more active in the Atlantic. It is only a matter of time, especially this year, as I've been saying, compared to what I've seen a lot of people say about this season. Just you wait, it is definitely going to get active, and the fact that this is forming is only the start and the sign of the beginning of that activity occurring. But don't want to stress you too much about that. We will definitely monitor it and talk about that activity when the time comes and when that activity itself comes. For now, we're just going to be focusing on this wave in the MDR, and I'll continue to keep you up to date, obviously, throughout the rest of the week and this weekend, and into next week, of course. So if you are new to my channel and you want more information on this, please, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like this video, comment your thoughts, share with family and friends, and also follow me on Twitter too, same name as I have here on YouTube, Danilo Evangelista, and I also post information on there as well, much more often too, so please keep in mind of that. Thanks for watching today. That's going to be it for today's video. Not much else to go over for the rest of today, so I'm going to end it off here. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy the rest of your weekend if you're not going to watch the rest of the weekend, even though I will have a video tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned for that, and I will see you tomorrow.